to another episode of the Next Iteration podcast. I'm Chirag, and with me there's Chands.
Hello.
Today we are going to talk to you about how to get automated testing right. It's very common to see teams struggle to get their automated test suite right. And we're going to talk about common pitfalls that we have fallen ourselves in our teams, or we've seen other teams fall into quite often, and we'll discuss, what are good ways to solve it. So let's get started. Chans, you want to start off with the first problem that you've seen?
Yeah, Chirag, let's start. Okay. So I have typically seen teams whenever they want to start building an automated test suite. One option that may seem viable, at least for the short term, would be something called record playback tests. So these are tools which will mimic a user behavior and then generate test scripts for you and help you create end-to-end tests. I've also seen that once you start using these tools, so like your test costs go up because these tools are quite expensive. And secondly, I've seen that it becomes unmanageable to maintain them because these are code created by tools. And as your application changes, you would obviously need to update your tests as well. And that is where I've seen a lot of effort goes in, Chirag. So I was wondering, what would be a right way for teams to start writing tests?
Yeah. Yeah, so certainly the way to do this is to stay away from record and playback tools and instead
Mm,
use tools that allow you to write test scripts and write code to control what your end-to-end tests do.
mm,
And uh, and and so that's the solution, that you have to write it in a scripting language,
mm,
and developers and testers have to uh, approach writing test code in the same way that we approach writing production code, which means
mm,
the intention should be not that just that it works, that it does the testing that you want to do, but also that it is written in a way that it is readable and maintainable for the future. So creating a readable and maintainable set of tests is as important as doing the testing in an automated way in the first place.
yeah, sounds right. So just like we write clean code, we should write clean tests as well.
Yeah. So then, another thing I've seen many teams fall into is that they've started writing these tests,
Mm,
and writing tests of different kinds: unit tests and integration tests and API tests and end-to-end tests. But they often then hit a point where the entire test suites becomes large enough that running it now starts to take 5 hours, 6 hours. Like I've been on teams where our team needed to sort of say, okay, I'm going off for the day,
mm,
and I'm going to fire a test run, and then we hope to see the results of the test run the next day we come in.
mm,
But that is very painful because it then means, yeah, takes long time, a number of hours to get feedback. And if anything goes wrong in that test suite, to fix it and to run it again will take another, 6 hours of it. So it's very painful when the tests become slow and often become
mm,
unreliable as well. So how have you
mm.
found, what's the way you've found to solve it, Chance?
Yeah, Chirag, here I would like to visualize or illustrate the tests at different layers. I think it's good to have tests at different layers because each of them have a purpose. And as you see the shape come up, right, if it resembles more of a pyramid, what we call a test pyramid, that means that you are depending on a lot of lower level tests, which typically don't depend upon network or data or like it it takes a long time to run, because they would run very fast and give you that feedback. And also, as you traverse up the pyramid, you would come to integration tests, API tests, and finally end-to-end tests. So the number of tests that you run should typically go down drastically, and you only try to cover the happy scenarios, or the main flows of the application. And this way, there is a guarantee that you can run your entire test suite within a coffee break, because the unit tests will take seconds to execute, while the 3 to 5 main end-to-end tests would maybe take about 10 minutes to execute. That way, you'll be able to continuously integrate your code and also get that feedback as like in a very short time, and that will allow you to keep the test fresh. You will derive value out of each test. And then also, I think one more point is to ensure that, like, as you keep writing tests, it's important to keep an eye on this test pyramid shape, and maybe it may go out of shape based on the number of tests you have in each layer. So it's always good to identify opportunities to continuously refactor your higher level tests into lower level tests to get back to the ideal shape. And that's when you continue reaping the benefits of the entire test suite.
So especially when teams realize that their test suite has become slow and has become
Hmm.
unreliable, that is certainly the trigger for them to then refactor tests such that
Yeah.
they move more of the scenarios from the higher level tests down to unit tests and integration tests rather than doing it all in end-to-end tests.
Hmm. Yep.
Cool.
All right.
All right.
Yeah, one other issue that I've grappled with, Chirag, is yeah, let's say we have convinced the team to write clean tests, and then we are writing the appropriate tests at each layer. What I've seen happen on some teams is that, in a way, we don't care enough to run the tests often, because we are focused on delivery. We are focused on new enhancements, or like fixes that has to go through right away. And I've seen developers forget to run tests, and the side effect of this is the tests become stale. So I was wondering, how should a team go about solving this dilemma?
Yeah, I think the way to solve it would be to take people out of the equation when it comes to running tests.
Hmm.
Test needs to run continuously, uh, uh, um, so that and continuously and at every check-in, so that nobody has to remember to run it. Uh, So if we combine some of the things that we've talked about earlier in this episode, so that if you have a set of tests that you've written thoughtfully, if you have a set of tests that run fast because you are depending a lot more on unit tests and lot less on end-to-end tests, then your
Hmm.
test suite is can run within a few minutes.
Hmm.
And so what you'd like to do is to just run it, make it part of the discipline for developers to run it before they check in, and then after they check in as
Hmm.
well, it should run automatically as part of the continuous integration pipelines and continuous delivery pipelines for the team. So writing good tests is one thing, making sure that they keep running all the time and making sure that the team then pays attention to a
Hmm.
test failure, and whenever they see a test failure, they somebody in the team then picks up picks up the task quickly to identify what went wrong. Most likely, it is one of the recent commits that has caused a failure. So somebody who was working on that should quickly drop what they are doing, go back,
Hmm.
look at the test failures, and find the issue and make the fix. So that part of the cycle is important for teams to get right as well.
Makes sense. Yeah, sounds like a non-negotiable consideration that you have to keep running tests often.
Yeah, yeah. So then, I've seen teams adopt automated testing, but they do that for functional scenarios.
Hmm.
But for non-functional testing, they still rely on doing it by hand or doing it sort of manually, from using tools. Uh, and then typically these kinds of activities of a couple of testers manually checking for performance issues or security issues
Hmm.
is often then done pretty late in the cycle pretty late
Hmm.
towards the end of the release, and then it's quite often that big issues are found quite late, and that then delays releases. So what would be a way to solve for that?
Yeah, Chirag. So this is a shared responsibility. Like the name non-functional, maybe may make people think that they are not useful right away. But if you look at them as cross-functional requirements, they are essentially part of your definition of done. And I have also seen teams, like you mentioned, delay this to the end to, let's say, get security sign off, or let's say to satisfy a performance number. But I feel one is people should be aware that cross functional requirements are essentially requirements which are cross cutting, and then they make the functional requirements work well. You like, even if you build a excellent application but that is error prone because of performance issues, or that is basically not secure, then it's not useful to the end user. So one is be aware that you need to address cross functional requirements as well, and they are first class citizens. And once you see them that way, it obviously means that you would need to run automated tests to cover them right from sprint zero. You don't need to delay it till you go live, because these are architectural concerns that will shape your code and your design and give your end users early confidence as well.
And
Yeah.
with cross-functional automated testing,
Hmm.
I suppose the earlier advice that we provided about using tools that will allow you to write scripts, and
Hmm.
write scripts that are easy to maintain
Hmm.
also applies, right? And then
Yeah.
running them continuously was the advice that we had given earlier.
Yeah.
Like that also applies, correct?
Yeah. Plus one, Chirag.
Cool. All right. So another issue I see far too often in teams is that somebody in the team, like the architects, or somebody, will set a benchmark that if there is less than 80% code coverage, then it can't then you can't make a commit. And teams, when teams get faced with such a situation, I've seen people on the team game code coverage
Hmm.
metrics, write really dumb tests which don't
Hmm.
achieve any purpose, and only with the purpose of making sure that the code coverage metric rise up and cross the barrier that has been set. So
Yeah.
yeah, how do you solve for that?
Yeah, Chirag, I want to acknowledge I was one of those architects earlier, and I think I made life for my developers quite difficult. Yeah, I think if this is the norm, one of the like visible side effects would be your operational metrics would be green, but your delivery and your predictability will be yellow or red, and that defeats the whole purpose of the metric. I think what I've realized with time is, like I mentioned in the previous point, it's important to build a shared understanding on why code coverage should be high, and that code coverage is a measure of your test suite's quality, and then in turn the confidence of developers to make code changes. And yeah, it's ideal that it should be high, but it need not be 100 all the time, or it need not be 95 plus, or it need not be 1% increasing like with every commit, because there could be some scenarios, like in a very trivial way, like random number generation, or like some scenarios that you cannot like meaningfully mock or cover. And that way there should be an understanding in the team that yeah, we are going to write high value tests like with each commit, and then we will keep an eye on the code coverage, and if it's meaningfully high, and we will let it be, but we will not have a hard guideline or a hard sort of pre-commit hook somewhere that if you do not increase your last code coverage metric, we are not going to allow you to commit. And that's when things lead to bad behavior, and then counter, and it actually becomes counterproductive. So yeah, overall, yeah, build conviction and help your team understand why code coverage is a guideline and not necessarily make it a hard metric.
Yeah. And also, I think, like you were saying, it is useful to make sure that the team members actually have the skills to write
Ah.
different kinds of tests and write them, efficiently, and
Hmm.
write good tests. It is a skill like any other that one needs to learn. And especially for new members who are joining the team, whether they have experience already or whether they are grads, um, teams should make sure that they have access to learning, uh, yeah, access to
Hmm.
to learning how to write good tests as they join the team. And then they get support within the team from others who have been around to be able to help them write good tests when if they feel stuck in a particular situation. So providing that, building that conviction is one, and then providing people the right support when they are struggling to write good tests is important. So
Hmm.
then automatically code coverage metrics would start to get to good levels, and you don't have to police for it, and
Yeah.
people don't have to game for it.
Agree.
All right, yeah. So uh, those were the key points we wanted to cover in how you can get automated testing right in your teams. Thanks for tuning in, and stay tuned for more. See you later. Bye.